The air crackled with anticipation. It was November 9th, 1989. The cold Berlin air carried whispers of change. At the Berlin Wall, a concrete barrier that had cleaved a city and a continent for almost 3 decades, something extraordinary was unfolding. Thousands of East Berliners had gathered at the checkpoints. They pressed against the gates, their faces reflecting a mix of hope and disbelief. The impossible seemed to be happening. The Berlin Wall, that potent symbol of oppression and division, was about to crumble. The night echoed with the clang of hammers and chisels. The people were taking down the wall, piece by piece. The world watched in astonishment as scenes of jubilation unfolded on television screens. East Berliners, once trapped behind the Iron Curtain, surged through the newly opened gaps in the wall. They were met with tears, embraces, and cheers of joy from their West Berlin counterparts. The celebrations continued late into the night. The fall of the Berlin Wall was not just the fall of a physical barrier, it was the fall of an ideology. It marked a pivotal moment in history, the beginning of the end of the Cold War and a testament to the power of the human spirit's yearning for freedom and unity. To truly grasp the magnitude of that momentous night, one must journey back to the origins of this infamous barrier. The Berlin Wall was not just a physical structure, it was a symbol of the ideological battle that raged between the East and the West. The Berlin Wall was born in the aftermath of World War II. The war had left Germany in ruins, its cities devastated, and its people struggling to rebuild their lives amidst the rubble. Germany, shattered and defeated, found itself divided amongst the victors. The country was split into 4 occupation zones, each controlled by one of the Allied powers: the United States, Great Britain, France, and the Soviet Union. The United States, Great Britain, and France controlled West Germany, embracing democracy and capitalism. This part of Germany began to recover and thrive, becoming a beacon of freedom and prosperity in the post-war years. The Soviet Union took control of East Germany, imposing its communist ideology and authoritarian rule. Life in East Germany was starkly different, marked by repression, economic hardship, and a lack of personal freedoms. Berlin, though geographically located within East Germany, was itself divided. The city was split into East and West Berlin, each side representing the broader ideological divide between communism and capitalism. This created a dangerous loophole in the Iron Curtain, the metaphorical barrier separating East and West Europe. Berlin became the focal point of Cold War tensions, a place where the 2 superpowers' ideologies clashed directly. Millions of East Germans, desperate to escape communist rule and seeking a better life, fled to the West through this loophole. They risked everything, leaving behind their homes, families, and possessions in search of freedom. By 1961, the exodus had reached crisis levels, threatening the very existence of East Germany. The East German government, under pressure from the Soviet Union, knew they had to act swiftly to stop the mass migration. In a desperate attempt to stem the tide, on August 13, 1961, the East German government, under Soviet orders, began the hasty construction of the Berlin Wall. Barbed wire and makeshift barriers were quickly erected, cutting off the flow of refugees. Overnight, a city was torn apart. Families were separated, homes and businesses were cut off, and the once vibrant heart of Berlin was severed by a concrete gash. The suddenness of the wall's construction left many in shock and despair. Families were separated, homes and businesses were cut off, and the once vibrant heart of Berlin was severed by a concrete gash. The wall not only divided the city physically, but also emotionally, creating a deep sense of loss and longing among its residents. The wall stretched for over 100 miles, fortified with barbed wire, guard towers, and shoot-to-kill orders for those attempting to cross. It became a deadly barrier, a constant reminder of the dangers of trying to escape to the West. The Berlin Wall became a chilling symbol of oppression, division, and the stark ideological divide that defined the Cold War. It stood as a testament to the lengths that governments would go to maintain control and the human cost of political conflict. Life in East Germany, under the shadow of the wall, was one of constant surveillance and restricted freedoms. Every move was watched, every word was monitored, creating an atmosphere of pervasive fear and mistrust. The Stasi, East Germany's notorious secret police, infiltrated every aspect of daily life. Their reach was extensive, their methods ruthless, ensuring that no one felt safe, not even in their own homes. Informants were everywhere, neighbors spied on neighbors, and any form of dissent was swiftly and brutally crushed. The fear of being reported kept people in line, stifling any thoughts of rebellion or escape. East Germans were denied access to information, travel, and even basic consumer goods readily available in the West. The scarcity of goods was a daily reminder of their isolation and the regime's control over their lives. The contrast between the vibrant, free West Berlin and the drab, oppressive East Berlin was stark and ever-present. The wall not only divided a city, but also symbolized the ideological chasm between freedom and oppression. For those trapped behind the wall, the yearning for freedom was a constant ache. They could see the life they longed for just beyond the concrete barrier, but it remained painfully out of reach. Every day was a reminder of the lives they could not lead, the families they could not see, and the opportunities they could not grasp. The wall was not just a physical barrier, but a symbol of lost dreams and broken connections. Yet, despite the oppressive atmosphere, the spirit of the East German people remained unbroken. They found ways to resist, to express their discontent, and to keep their hope alive through underground cultural activities and peaceful protests. The desire for freedom, for reunification with loved ones, and for a better future burned brightly in their hearts. Vigils and secret gatherings became acts of defiance, small but powerful statements against the regime. It was this yearning for freedom that ultimately led to the wall's demise. The collective will of the people, their unyielding desire for liberty, became an unstoppable force. The wall itself became a canvas for their discontent. Graffiti artists turned the cold, grey concrete into a vibrant tapestry of protest and hope. Graffiti adorned its eastern side, a silent scream of protest against the regime. Each stroke of paint was a declaration of defiance, a refusal to be silenced. Escape attempts, though fraught with danger, were constant reminders of the human desire for freedom. Tunnels were dug, walls were scaled, and lives were risked in the pursuit of liberty. The Berlin Wall may have divided a city, but it could not crush the human spirit's yearning for liberty. When the wall finally fell, it was not just a physical structure that crumbled, but the oppressive regime it represented. The celebrations that followed were not just about the end of a barrier, but the beginning of a new era of freedom and unity. The 1980s witnessed a surge of change sweeping across Eastern Europe. Inspired by the Polish Solidarity movement and Mikhail Gorbachev's reforms in the Soviet Union, whispers of dissent grew louder in East Germany. Protests, once small and easily crushed, gained momentum. People dared to dream of a different future, a future without the wall, a future reunited. In 1989, the situation escalated rapidly. Hungary, emboldened by the winds of change, opened its border with Austria. Thousands of East Germans, sensing an opportunity, fled through Hungary, further weakening the East German regime. The pressure on the East German government mounted with each passing day. Mass demonstrations calling for freedom and democracy became commonplace. The chants of Wir sind das Volk, we are the people, echoed through the streets of Leipzig, Dresden, and other East German cities. The East German government, reeling from the pressure and facing economic collapse, made a series of blunders. On November 9, 1989, in a botched attempt to ease travel restrictions, the government spokesperson announced that East Germans would be allowed to cross into West Berlin. But the details and the timing of the new regulations were unclear. This miscommunication proved to be the catalyst that brought down the wall. Günter Schabowski, a high-ranking East German official, stepped up to the podium for what was supposed to be a routine press conference. Little did he know his words would soon echo across the globe. In his hand, he held a note containing instructions for a slight easing of border restrictions. The note was hastily written and lacked clarity. Schabowski himself seemed unsure of its full implications. The ambiguity of the note left him visibly uncertain, a sentiment that would soon spread to the entire nation. When pressed by journalists about when the new regulations would take effect, he hesitantly replied, "As far as I know, it takes effect immediately, without delay." His words were tentative, yet they carried an unintended weight. This seemingly innocuous statement, broadcast live on television, would change the course of history. The world was watching, and the impact was immediate. East Berliners, glued to their television sets, erupted in astonishment. Could this be true? Was it finally happening? The disbelief quickly turned into a fervent hope. Had the wall, after 28 years, finally lost its grip? The question lingered in the air, filled with both hope and uncertainty. Doubts quickly turned into a surge of hope. The possibility of freedom was too tantalizing to ignore. Thousands of East Berliners, driven by a mixture of curiosity and a desperate hope for freedom, flocked to the checkpoints along the wall. The air was thick with anticipation and anxiety. The guards at the border crossings were completely unprepared for the sudden onslaught. They had no clear instructions and were caught off guard by the sheer number of people. They had received no clear orders and were unsure how to react to the growing throngs of people demanding to cross. The tension was palpable. In the face of mounting pressure and the sheer determination of the crowd, the guards, overwhelmed and fearing a riot, finally relented. They opened the gates, a decision that would forever alter the course of history. The gates were opened, and history took an unexpected turn. The Berlin Wall, a symbol of division and oppression, was breached not by force but by the collective will of the people. The Berlin Wall, that seemingly impenetrable symbol of oppression and division, had been breached not by force but by the sheer will of the people. The celebrations that followed were a testament to the power of human spirit and the unyielding desire for freedom.